Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to the round 10 of the FIDE World Championship match between Nepomniachtchi and Liren. So we have now very already a very important moment of this match because after this game Liren has only 2 more chances with the white pieces to make something to happen against Nepomniachtchi because we know that Nepomniachtchi was in the lead before this round 10 with 1 point more than Liren, which of course is not a huge advantage, but it's a very important advantage because it's now really keeping Liren under pressure. Ding has to make now something to happen with this game when he's playing with the white pieces. So today Ding played with the white pieces. Let's see now what happens. So far we have seen really many ups and downs in their games, but this game I think was really perfect without so many mistakes, inaccuracies or blunders. So let's see now what happened. Very important now moment of the super match. So Ding opened with the move c4. See, he already played in the English opening so far. Here the response was knight to f6, knight to c3 and e5 here by Nepomniachtchi. So we have knight to f3 and after knight to c6 we have now the 4 knights variation. Now Ding goes into a very interesting line into the so-called Nimzovich variation, which is very solid. You keep your chances in the center of the board. You have a great control of the center, especially around the square d5. But the downside is after move bishop to c5 that here Nepo is playing. Notice that Nepo has also a great control of the square d4. So you have already advanced your pawns to c4, e4. So there's no way that you're competing anymore for the d4 square. You see, you cannot kick away a potential outpost on d4 anymore with your pawns because you advance the pawns too much. On the other hand, if white in some lines tries maybe an outpost on d5, then this knight can be always kicked away with potential move c6. So when it comes to, as I mentioned many times in my videos, when it comes to central controls, I think black has already equalized the game. So here we have knight to e5 by Ding, and it's a very progressive line. It's a very common and very often played line, but the downside about this line is actually that the tactical sequence leads many times into drawish lines. Although it's an attractive tactical shot, notice we have given up now the knight. After knight to e5 we advance the pawn on d4, but actually black can get out of this mess very easily, in my opinion. In my opinion, Ding choose to play here really a too drawish line for my taste. You see now why, because after bishop to b4, okay, you can pick up now also the knight on e5. Now black can recapture here the pawn on e4, threatens also some tactics around the square c3. You have to play queen to f3. So you see, the whole sequence is pretty much forced. You cannot get deviations out of this line, so you cannot play something else. That's, I think, the issue here. So you don't have tricky lines, you don't have tricky opportunities. You have to just play this progressive line, which leads into this position. After b takes c3, bishop to c5, and okay. When we watch now this position, there are of course good parts for white here. There are also bad parts. The good parts I've noticed here with the black arrows. First of all, what we should notice is that black has a better of course pawn structure. Here you see it's a solid structure, but also the downside is that the king is stuck a little bit in the center, and also you see now in a couple more moves that actually black has problems to secure the king by castling. So you cannot castle. That's the downside here for black. The downside for white is of course this messed up pawn structure. Look at this. All of these pawns really weaknesses. A2 pawn, c3, c4, e5. So as I said, you have your space advantage, but you have a really weakened pawn structure. And of course you have a decent bishop's activity, so it's now really an unbalanced game, but in my opinion not so complicated because there's simply not so many tactical possibilities now for both sides. So in the game, queen to g3 played by Ding, attacking now the pawn on g7. You cannot play kingside castling. That's now the tricky part. The only issue that I see here, as I said, is if you castle kingside here, then of course bishop to g5 comes. You don't have so many chances. If you play f6, of course, then we have this one. Bishop to f6 is game over here for black. If you want to play something else, the only way to make that happen, you play of course queen to e8, but look at this now with bishop to f6, the game is over here for black. Queen to g5, you can play whatever you want, but now in one moment you have to give up the queen now for the pawn here on e5 in order to survive somehow this attack. So you see, this is really not working. So in my opinion here, really messed up game here for black. You can sacrifice the queen, but as I said, the game should be over. So after move queen to g3, that's why you have to play king to f8. And of course, this is not the optimal position for the king, but still I kind of think that this king is not so endangered, because the only piece that really can attack the king is the bishop. This bishop on d3 is also perfectly fine, but it's targeting the h7 square, and the h7 square is well protected. I would love to bring my bishop maybe here on c4. On c4, the bishop would be much more powerful, maybe targeting the f7 square. That's of course not possible. So as I said, I don't see so many complications in this position. So maybe if you want to win a game, Ding should have played something else. Should have maybe played a more progressive opening, a more aggressive opening from the beginning. So after move king to f8, we have bishop to e2, d6. Here Nepo is getting out with his bishop, which is perfectly fine. Bishop to f4, protecting now the opponent. Now queen to e7. D takes e5. You cannot play here. That's the issue, because after bishop to e5, Nepo played the correct move here. Notice that both of these pawns are hanging. Also the pawn on g7, but also the pawn on c7, so it's simply not working. So that's why from bishop to f4, Nepo played, as I said, the correct move. Queen to e7, rook to d1 here by Ding, and now h5, threatening h4, and then afterwards also to play the move h3. In the game, we have kingside castling by Ding. We have h4, we have queen to d3, g5, and now Ding plays the counter attack with this idea: e takes d6, c takes d6, bishop to d6. And you see, even in this wild tactical sequence, pretty much everything is forced. Too many pieces were traded off. That's the issue here for Ding. I'm talking about Ding's possibilities, because Ding has to win the game. Nepo is pretty solid here. Nepo is probably satisfied with the position. He's saying, okay, show me what you're going to do in this position. I'm not scared about your attacks. Okay, White has an extra pawn, but these pawns are doubled, and these pawns are immobile, and these pawns are weaknesses because they're isolated, they're doubled. All of these pawns can be attacked in the continuation of the game by Black. So I really don't see any progressive chances here for White to win the game. Maybe if just Black blunders something or makes a huge mistake. So here in the game, bishop to e6 played by Nepo, attacking the pawn. We have f4, king to e7, attacking the rook, rook to d4. The rook is of course protecting the pawn on c4, and connects also here the pawns on the fourth rank. So we have g takes f4, rook takes f4. You can play of course rook from d to f4, but h3 is always dangerous. You have to be careful. I like this Ding's choice, because after rook from f to h4, you can always compete on the h file. You can play something like rook to h4 then afterwards, because Ding has some problems a little bit, not enormous pressure here, but has a little bit problems on the h file. Maybe afterwards some g file attacks could come. So pretty solid idea to play a battery here on the fourth rank, protecting everything that's coming now from Black's perspective. So here in the game, h3 anyway played by Nepo. Now g4. Notice that the pawn on h3 is now isolated, becomes also now a weakness in Black's position. So we have now really many pawn weaknesses. This pawn is weak. This pawn can be attacked, as we mentioned before. These two pawns are also vulnerable in the continuation of the game. So maybe both players see their chances in their pawn weaknesses of their opponent. So in the game, rook from a to c8. We have king to f2, rook to c5, a4. We have rook to a5, attacking down the pawn. And look at this. Bishop to d1 has to be played. Ding has to play a passive move with the bishop, and notice that all of these pawns are on light squares, which are also blocking the potential activity of the light square bishop. So the bishop on d1 is not the optimal piece. It's just used in order to defend the position further. So in the game, b6 was played by Nepomniachtchi. We have king to g3, attacking now the pawn on h3, rook to h6. We have a rook to e4, king to f8, now getting out of this potential mess on the e file. We have a check, and now good move here by Nepomniachtchi, king to g7. The king is castled by hand, of course, but it's a secure position now of the king. The king is not endangered, and as I said, the pawn weaknesses are still remaining. Also, we have to say, there are maybe some chances for Ding to make something around the square h3, but it's a long run. Of course, Nepo has some counter chances here on the queen side. So rook to a8, Nepo plays a beautiful idea. Rook to c5, gives up now this pawn, but grabs also now the pawn on c4. We have a rook to e7, a rook to c6, another brilliant move, giving up this pawn on h3. That was weak anyway, and you see that's a beautiful idea in chess, I think, because you should not defend at all cost this pawn on h3. This pawn will be probably taken afterwards, maybe in 10-15 moves, but in order to survive, I think you have to keep your pieces active. This was a correct choice, and this was, in my opinion, the critical choice now by Nepo here to play this idea, giving up the pawn and simply activating the pieces. Because if now Ding would have taken this pawn on h3, then bishop to e6 solves every positional problem. The pawn on c3 is falling. We have a check. We have opportunities to maybe battle around the square g4. So good chances to make a draw here for black for sure. So that's why rook to c6, in my opinion, really the critical moment to seal the game, to say this is a perfect draw. You know, it's almost like when Mourinho is closing the game, when he's leading maybe 1-0, and then he puts a new defender into the game and gets the striker out. So it's similar like that, I think, with the move rook to c6. Here Nepo is really satisfied with his position. So in the game we have rook to e5. Ever further trades of pieces, I think, is favorable for black here, because the game is becoming more and more simplified. Even if in some wild lines white continues the game maybe with an extra pawn, still this should be a draw. So with rook to e5, everything is getting more simplified. As I said, bishop to b3, good again here move by Nepo, simply attacking now the bishop on d1. You have to accept now the challenge, but now the rook is coming into the game on the third rank. We have here rook takes b3, rook to b5, Nepo attacks now this pawn, Ding picks up now the pawn on b6, Nepo grabs now the pawn on a5. Here we have this one, king to h3. But as I said, this is too simplified. If something else would be still on the board, then maybe Ding would have chances. But now f5, this is another brilliant move here by Nepo, another beautiful drawish idea, because after g takes f5, we have here rook to f4, and you cannot protect anymore this pawn. Even if you play something like g5, if you try maybe to stay with your pawns connected here, then it's not working, because rook to g4 is solving again every positional problem. So this pawn will be taken, and again it's a draw. So after g takes f5, we have rook to f4, we have rook to b5, king to f6. After a couple more moves, the pawns were traded, and now this is a theoretical draw. Here Ding pushed the pawn to h5, and Nepo accepted, of course, the draw. So this is a great game, I think, because first of all, when you put now this PGN into maybe the Stockfish engine or maybe some other brutal engines, it will show you that Nepo and Ding played this game without inaccuracies, mistakes, or blunders. When we have followed now their previous games, many mistakes, blunders have been played. In this game, they played with 99% accuracy, which is really amazing. But in my opinion, Ding made slightly maybe inaccuracy in the beginning, that he chose to play this seemingly aggressive line, which led into drawish and simplified positions. For my taste, too less, not so much pressure here. I think by Ding, he should have probably played more aggressive. He still has two chances, in my opinion. He still has to play two more times with the white pieces, which is of course a good thing for Ding. Nothing is over, but he has to now make huge decisions in the next couple of rounds. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. Interesting ideas, of course, in the English opening, but for my taste, a little bit too drawish. If you want to see our other games that we have covered so far here on my YouTube chess channel, check out our World Championship match so far. Here's the link of our whole playlist, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.